2014. I would ask everyone in the audience to please stand for a prayer led by Councilman Gina Sakala, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together this day. Please watch over all those who need your help, love, and guidance. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of productivity and respect for one another, even when there is honest disagreement. Please help us accomplish our goals while displaying your character. Please grant us wisdom and a sense of welfare and the true needs of our people, personal peace, and the joy in our lives. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gina. And may we have roll call, please?
Councilman Sakala.
Present.
Councilman Denny.
Here.
Councilman Edgar.
Here.
Councilman Hall. Here. Mayor Copeland.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
Here.
Councilman Mancini.
Here.
Councilman Stokes.
Here.
Councilman Suzak. Here. Councilman Arnone.
Here.
Councilman Bosco.
Here.
We have 11 members present, none are absent.
Next item on the agenda is the fire evacuation announcement. I remind everyone in the audience that in the event that the fire alarm sounds here at Town Hall, everyone must evacuate the building. Closest exit would be to the rear of council chambers and out to the front of Town Hall. If you choose to take the side door to your right, our left, we ask that you then take the back set of stairs to the back parking lot of Town Hall. Minutes of the preceding meetings, there are 3. The first is the special meeting from January 21st, 2014.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Mangini, seconded by Councilman Stokes. Any discussion? Sensing none, by a show of hands, all those in favor? Those opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous? Regular meeting, January 21st, 2014.
So moved.
By Councilman Mangini, seconded by Councilman Sakala. Discussion. Sensing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Those opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous as well. And the special meeting of January 27th, 2014.
So moved.
By Councilman Mangini. Seconded by Councilman Arnone. Discussion. Sensing none, show of hands, all those in favor. Those opposed? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. You wanted to be there. I actually called. Okay, under our special guests section of the agenda, if we could please have the council come out front. And as we make our way to the front, if we could have Michael Dudek please come on up. Jonathan, anyone else from Public Works? Kevin? All right. Michael, come on up. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Did you know what we're doing tonight?
A little bit.
You got tipped off, so come on in the middle. Everyone, this is Michael Dudek, and Michael works for our Water Pollution Control Authority, and he received a very prestigious award. One individual in the state of Connecticut was recognized with this award, and we wanted to bring you here tonight to give this recognition a little more public observation than a simple press release, because it is something that should be celebrated, should be recognized, and we're very proud of you and your accomplishments and achievements. I'm going to ask Councilman Arnone to give a little insight, because you work in the same field, and I won't do it justice. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Councilman Arnone. He can give a little from his insight, and then we'll read the proclamation, and then we'll hear from you, if you so choose.
You know, Mike is a very dedicated employee for the town of Enfield. He is somebody they can always count on. in the middle of the night to take the phone call, to come out to the resident with a flooded basement, the pump station that's down. His work ethic is second to none. And I've always known Mike as an honest, just team player. And that's one of the difficult things for Mike right now. He's a team player because as far as Mike's concerned right now, this is the water pollution control plant and his colleagues that allowed him to get this award tonight. Mike's the kind of employee that would not think twice to walk into danger and save another employee's life. That's the kind of guy that Mike is. And I'm proud to stand here next to him tonight, and he deserves it, and so do all his crew at the Water Pollution Control that I know that he knows. He loves each and every one of them, and they should be here with him too. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And we have a proclamation for Mike, and it reads as follows. Proclamation honoring Operator of the Year in Connecticut, Michael Dudek. Whereas the New England Water Environment Association Operator Award is given annually to a person involved in the operations of wastewater treatment facilities in each of the 6 New England states. And whereas the purpose of the award is to recognize an individual whose personal service has contributed to excellence in plant operations, either directly at a treatment plant or indirectly through assistance to plant operations personnel. And whereas this year's recipient of the Connecticut Operator of the Year Award is Mike Dudek from the Town of Enfield Water Pollution Control Division. And whereas for over 26 years, Mike has worked for WPC, progressing from an entry-level position to his current position as Lead Attendant 2, Chief Plant Operator, and Laboratory Operator. And whereas working with the Superintendent of Water Pollution Control, Mike is responsible for the effective and efficient operation of the treatment facility, 16 remote pump stations, and over 250 miles of sewers. And whereas having consistently served on the front lines through many challenges faced by the Water Pollution Control facility, including numerous major storms and equipment breakdowns, Mike's tremendous dedication and commitment have protected both the public health of town residents as well as the town's assets. Now, therefore, I, Scott Copen, on behalf of the town council, the town administration, and the entire community, hereby congratulate Michael Dudek on receiving the honor of Operator of the Year in Connecticut and commend him on his exemplary service to the town of Enfield. Signed today, February 3rd, 2014. And again, Mike, on behalf of the town of Enfield, congratulations and thank you so much for a job well done and an honor well received. If you want to.
I'd just like to say thank you to my coworkers and my superintendent and also Councilman Arnone. Individual awards don't happen to individuals, they happen because of groups. And my coworkers, thank you.
All right.
Congratulations.
Quicker.
Matt, you got the heat regulated, huh?
You tell me he doesn't have to stay all night.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's normally very quiet.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public communications and petitions. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council this evening? Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council? We know it's a snowy night out there, so we appreciate you that have attended, and sure we got folks watching from home. So we'll move to councilman communications and petitions. Councilman Mangini.
I just have one compliment to our library. I had the opportunity last Friday to accompany my 4-year-old grandson to the movie Despicable Me, and it was a very crowded event, to say the least. But all the kids had a great time, and I think the parents and grandparents that were there with them had a great time. took a little bit of doing, trying to get up off the floor after 2 hours, but the kids enjoyed it. And I just wanted to say that it's important that people know we have this great opportunity in our town. And it was free. And the kids had a great time, and it was a good way to spend a winter evening. And I just wanted to say thank you to our library and all their staff for putting it on and cleaning up afterwards with all the popcorn and whatnot that was left. But it was a lot of fun. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Councilman Communications? Councilman Stokes.
Just wanted to remind folks that the 4th of July Town Celebration, which a few of us serve on the committee, has the dinner dance on March 8th, and we encourage everybody to be there and have a great time. It's over at the Polish Deli, the Polish House over here on Alden Avenue this time. It's going to be a great time. So any of us at committee have tickets, or just call Scott Copeland at home. He'll be happy to coordinate that for you.
Oh, thank you.
Also, I wanted to mention that every year the 4th of July Town Celebration Committee gives out a couple scholarships for high school seniors going on to higher education. It's named after Norma Post, who is one of our directors, in her memory. And the application is on our website, infieldcelebration.org, if you have a senior. And it'll give you the requirements there. And, I know they're all looking for scholarships. When all of us put our kids through college, we kept telling them, look for scholarships, because it saved us money. So we know parents are looking for that too. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Greg. Councilman Communications? Councilman Hall?
Through the mayor to Matt, Scott had Facebooked a phone number for Christmas tree pickups, if there are any left in town. I know we've finished the pickups. I've had a couple of phone calls from a couple of different residents saying that their trees weren't picked up. I tried calling myself today, Matt, and left a message and never had a return phone call. So can somebody from DPW just get back to me tomorrow on that? Thanks.
Thanks, Carol. Councilman Communications? Anyone down here? Councilman Arnone?
Yeah, the Heritage Fair Saturday starts at 11 to 4. JFK, great event. Celebrate Enfield's culture. Thanks.
Councilman Suzak.
I just, through the mayor to Matt, do we have an update on 9 South Road with their non-compliance?
Anything else, Donna? That's it?
I'm hearing from the neighbors that they're non-compliant, but there's no change really in the stockpiling and the equipment.
Okay. Councilman Bosco.
Yeah, through the mayor to the town manager, I was wondering if maybe we possibly could even start looking at updating our sidewalk ordinance again to include any obstructions in the sidewalk, which would help with some of the mess down in Thompsonville, that give us a way of collecting the money when they pile the stuff up there.
Councilman Communications? You can tell it's winter time. Deputy Mayor Lee, you're up.
Hang on, Jeff. Scott, I have 2 housekeeping motions. I would like to make a motion to add an additional item under old business on the agenda. It would be item number 1 to the Loan Review Committee.
Okay, there's a motion by Deputy Mayor Lee, seconded by Councilman Stokes to add under old business, I think it'd be item number 11.
Okay.
Loan Review Committee. It's an appointment that was inadvertently left off the agenda. Any discussion? Okay, motion by Deputy Mayor Lee, seconded by Councilman Stokes. By a show of hands, all those in favor? Those opposed? Item has been added to the agenda.
All right, and secondly, this evening, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move the following items to miscellaneous and proceed to a vote. Items B1, B2, B3, B4, D, E, and F.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Lee, seconded by Councilman Hall. Any discussion? Sensing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Those opposed, any abstentions? Items have been moved to miscellaneous. Anything else?
That's it.
Anyone else have anything? Okay, I've just got a couple items. First, right after our last council meeting, we did, a couple of us did attend the Northern New England Intercity Rail Initiative. It was the meeting at the Pioneer Valley Planning Authority in Springfield, and it actually probably a third of the folks that were in the room, and the place was packed, were from Connecticut. And it was, we had the conversation downstairs with our legislators about the coordinated effort on commuter rail between the state of Connecticut and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it was a very good meeting. There is a lot of energy and an enthusiasm in Massachusetts as well, but they also recognize the importance of the link from Hartford to Springfield. And I would say just as important, which we have to help advocate for, is that link between Springfield and Worcester. And by no means is that a done deal. I think they're facing the same funding constraints that we're facing from Hartford to Springfield. Massachusetts is facing the same constraints from Springfield over to Worcester. So again, we just continue to show our face and be at meetings. This time we took it over the border to the Commonwealth. 2 weekends ago, I had the pleasure of being a judge in the Summers Rotary Pizza Bowl. First time ever. And just wanted to recognize the two Enfield restaurants that entered. They were Lulu's and Bonavitas. And it was a nice event, and Summers Rotary puts it on. They wanted to expand it to include restaurants in Enfield, and it benefits the education in Summers as a Rotary project. But special thanks to our two restaurants that participated. This coming Friday, we have our quarterly Corridor Advisory Commission meeting. Again, this is on the rail. It's Friday morning down at Northeast Utilities, and members from the town manager, staff, development services, community development will be there. And again, this is just continuing our advocacy for commuter rail. Want people to remember that this coming weekend, Saturday is Dancing with the Town. And our town manager, Matt Koppler, is dancing.
I can't quite characterize it.
One of the captains in the police department, Jeff Golden, is dancing. Kevin Feely, former board member, is dancing. Who else is? Steve Belinda, our Maya Matthews. Well, David Kiner's a judge.
Oh.
So it's an event. It starts at 7 o'clock. It's at Fermi High School. Tickets are still available. I think they're $15, and they support social services in the town of Enfield. So come out to Dancing with the Town. Also want to give some recognition to the North Thompsonville Fire Department. They're holding their 100th anniversary celebration on Saturday the 15th. Up at the Sheridan in Springfield, and I believe some tickets are still available. So if anyone's interested in attending, please contact North Thompsonville Fire Department or call Councilman Denny at his home, since he's a commissioner in North Thompsonville, and I'm sure he can hook you up with the appropriate folks. And then if you want to put something tasty on your calendar, April 11th, 2014, Educational Resources for Children are holding their wine and beer tasting event at the Holiday Inn. It's a fundraising event to benefit the Educational Resources for Children Scholarship Fund Friday, April 11th, 6 to 9 at the Holiday Inn. Tickets are $50. You can call Educational Resources for Children for further information. And my last comment is, unfortunately, over the weekend, Enfield lost a very dedicated individual to youth sports in town. Very sad to hear about the passing of Hank Blethen. I knew Hank for his involvement in the community. I also knew Hank because he worked for the United States Postal Service and was, in my career, was my sales representative from the post office to Brooks Brothers. And Hank, unfortunately, he was going in for knee surgery and developed some blood clots and complications from the surgery and passed away over the weekend. Totally unexpected and a huge loss to the community. Hank's wake is Thursday evening at Brown's with a funeral on Friday. So if you know Hank and his family, please come out and pay your respects. And I tell you, Hank was working right to the last moment. He had contacted me, working to secure ball field space because his daughter is a very good softball player. A friend of the daughter's is a very good softball player, and he was securing field space for spring and summer to do extra training for the two. And he wanted to take care of it before he went in for his knee surgery, and he did take care of it. But that's who Hank was. So dedicated in particular to Enfield girls softball. So thank you, Hank, for all you did for our community. We will go to the town manager's report. Matt.
Good evening. I have just a few items for updates for you. First, I believe it was 2 Saturdays ago, or was it 3 Saturdays ago?
Last Saturday.
I just remember it was snowing. There was a mini traffic study being conducted out on Hazard Avenue by the St. Bernard's Church. And I just wanted to give you an update where we stand with that. It was agreed by all the participants there, all the participants that were there, Councilman Lee, that were there. It decided that some parking restrictions were needed. And so heading to the west from the entryway of the church to the next driveway, and I can't remember exactly what the footage is on that, our traffic officer has made a request to the state of Connecticut to allow for no parking along that section. And we believe that's necessary because as you try to exit out of the church parking lot, there's just no visibility with cars parked along that area there. We feel that, and I believe that's going to be approved. I don't know if it has been approved yet, but I know the request has already been made. The second element of that was the pedestrian crossing, and there is a crosswalk a little bit to the east of that or where the church parking lot egress and ingress is. And in watching the traffic and the pedestrians cross that, we feel that the best solution is to put a actuated light there. So a pedestrian light where they would actuate it, press a button, it would then start flashing. Unfortunately, it's not going to stop traffic, although the state law requires that when a pedestrian is in the crosswalk, they are supposed to stop. But there won't be a red light. It'll just be a light that starts to flash to let oncoming traffic know that there is a pedestrian entering the crosswalk. Unfortunately, the state has let us know that they're not going to pay for any part of that. So I've requested DPW to put together an estimate and a process to start doing the engineering. Before we go any further with that, though, I'll obviously bring that back to council and make sure that the cost is within what you believe it should be for that. But we will have to do all the engineering and then pay for the actual installation as well.
Cindy.
Matt, thank you. I appreciate everyone coming out that Saturday. It was very cold and bad. But and again, we're making some progress here. Do we have to accept no for an answer from the state? I mean, can we challenge their response to not making contribution, a monetary contribution to the project? Can we maybe encourage them that perhaps this is a state road and it is state people? They are taxpayers of the state of Connecticut as well as Enfield. They might want to consider throwing in some bucks.
Well, that decision was going to be made above their pay grade. So that's going to be the state legislators and senators that will make that decision.
So who do I need to talk to from that point? David and David?
Two of the gentlemen were here, and the third
Kissel
we...
and
Yep.
all of them?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Carol?
Matt, you mentioned to the west. I noticed this weekend to the heading to the east, there's actually a no parking sign there. And the problem heading that direction as well is right in front of the no parking sign, everybody parks.
Yep.
So there was like 6 cars on Hazard Avenue. So when you're actually trying to exit the Kelly Fredette parking, nobody coming west, so driving west, can see you step into the sidewalk because the cars are parked right there. So maybe, our law enforcement can take a closer look, because this weekend was the first weekend I've really noticed a ton of cars parked on both sides, and there were no police there.
Yeah.
And the previous weekends where the police were there, nobody parked there.
Right. Yeah, the car and the yellow coats do make a difference. We
Yes,
noticed
they
that.
do.
Although there was a great U-turn that happened right in front of us. That car slid right into that parking spot, but didn't violate any laws. But it was a great U-turn, I should say.
Nice.
No, I think one of the elements of all this is also when we do that engineering for the placement of the actuated light, it may require that crosswalk be relocated.
Okay.
And because as I was there looking at it, I don't think that's the best place for that crosswalk where it's at.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of the placement of the crossing lights as well, we may have to relocate that more towards the west is my guess, but.
Right, that would make probably more sense.
Yeah. And so that's going to have a dramatic impact on that parking as well as the parking to the east on the church side as well, because there's still some visibility issues if they park right up to the end of where the parking is there. But I think, again, it's something that we'll have to look at as part of the overall plan.
Thanks, Carol. Cindy?
Thank you. Just to address another issue here, Kelly Fredette does not give permission for parishioners to park in their parking lot. People are taking it upon themselves. So what happens from that side of the road, quite honestly, is an issue, but is not of as great concern as what happens from people exiting the church, going to their vehicles, be they on Hazard Avenue or the people walking to their homes on Allen Street, on School Street. There are some walkers. That is of a greater concern because the people that park in Kelly Fredette have no business parking there. So that is another issue. Mm-hmm. The real issue is exiting the church, pedestrian and car traffic as well, cannot see east, west, north, south, whatever you want to look at. And Matt is absolutely correct. We almost had someone taken out with that big Huey. I just got blown away when I saw that, and there were 4 officers in green coats that were just standing right there, and this guy just did it. It just blew me away. And the fact is that he did not violate a law, and that was his response to the officer. It's like, well, you knock somebody over, and then you're going to violate a law, and it's too late. But I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Councilman Stokes?
That actually was one of my questions. Don and I were just talking about it, and thank you, Cindy, for answering it before we had a chance to ask it. Then that brings up an issue for me then. By doing this work, and I'm not sure if I'm in favor of the town paying for this in the first place, this is, I'll lay that out, but by doing this work, are we actually acknowledging the right-of-way to that parking lot of a local business without their permission? And so I think well, you may say no, but, you say that people aren't supposed to park there, it's a private, they haven't given right of way or whatever, and then all of a sudden we put this light up there, we actually say that there's an assumption that people are parking there, and by the town doing this, we're actually accepting that pattern there. I mean, I want to make sure if we can cover all these bases before we go into this, so. We could be encouraging the pattern. The key thing is, I think, has there been any conversation with Kelly Fredette on any of this?
No, not yet.
I think before we go any further, somebody's got to have a conversation with him.
May I just
Go ahead,
address that? Greg, just to clarify, the point of concern here is not the Kelly Fredette. The point of concern is the poor vision, no vision, for the people exiting the church parking lot. I'm not sure what happens from Kelly Fredette coming forward. I don't know. But when you're exiting the church parking lot, you cannot see east, west, north, south, whatever. So the Kelly Fredette issue is an issue unto itself, but it's not the germane heart of the problem. It's the people leaving the church that can't leave.
Right.
You know, because of the vision.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just respond back real quick here. Then that brings a question, though. Then, to me, you're saying it's the line of sight from somebody driving out of the parking lot, going east or west on Hazard. Then that brings a question: why are we concerned with the walkthrough and a egress across to the park?
Because they park across the street as well.
Once again, you're saying they're not? I'm kind of confused here, maybe.
I think she's suggesting that they park on the street, not in addition to the.
But we also find that that's a hazard there too. So, all I know is that for me, you know, obviously, and we want everybody to be safe. Obviously, I mean, somebody who deals with the congregation want our folks to be safe, and I know the dear folks there that are faithful to that parish, we want them to be safe. I just want to make sure that before we go further, whatever, that we're having all the conversations that we have, and if Kelly Fredette should be in the scheme of things, and then to make sure that we're not actually doing something that gives a sense of encouragement for a practice. And then you might want to check with the liability. If we put the pedestrian walkthrough there and we do all this stuff, and somebody walks across the street and stuff, and they're not supposed to be across the street, and say Kelly Fredette, we said we wouldn't like them to park here, and then but you put this crosswalk, somebody gets hurt, killed, or whatever, are we liable for that? I understand, but we're modifying it, and if you know anything, I know a little bit about the law. When you modify something, you take some responsibility for it, and that's just common law. So yeah. Thank you.
Any other comments on the St. Bernard's Cross?
Crosswalk.
Crosswalk.
Not a cross.
Matt, I just the new Enfield High School, same entrance, but Enfield High School, the state of Connecticut is not paying for a light or anything controlled access egress to there. So it seems, I know Cindy, you said they should pony up and help pay at a much larger project. They've already told the building committee that they're not going to pay at that entrance.
That's fine.
So it's just,
I'll be happy to take up that cause.
okay,
I have no problem with that.
keep us apprised.
I will. I
All
will.
right.
Thank you.
Matt, anything else?
Real quick, at our next meeting on the 18th, we will have Director of Finance Lynn Nenny here to give an update on the sewer billing. I know it is progressing. A couple I's and T's that have to be dotted and crossed, and by the next meeting, she should have all that done to present to council what the plan is and how we're going forward with that. Wanted to let council know, as well as put out to the public, we are going to be beginning the roads survey. That will be part of, ultimately, if everything goes right, the next roads referendum. So people may be noticing cars driving around that may be stopping to do some looks. This is something that we did send or have sent to the police department to let them know what vehicles are out there. So if there's any concerns, residents obviously can call the police department, and they'll have information in terms of if that person is working for the engineering firm that's doing that review for us. But it is beginning. Speaking of beginning, and beginning to the end, they started today at Higgins. to start the remediation. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact schedule yet. I'm going to follow up tomorrow and I'll send it out to council. But they have started the remediation. It's going to be a 2 to 3 week remediation. And then shortly after the remediation is done, they will start bringing in the equipment and taking down the building. And that'll probably be about a 2-week process. So probably by mid-March, the building will be gone.
So in tying that in,
Yes.
can you also give the impact of the demolition of Higgins that has on the ice skating on Higgins?
Yes, unfortunately, the way that all the electricity that service both the skate park as well as the Higgins softball field, the lighting has been disconnected as part of that. And as soon as the demolition is completed, then Buildings and Grounds will reconnect all of the lights back to the appropriate box. It just would be a lot easier when the building's gone to make that direct connection rather than kind of doing a circuitous route all the way around it. So once that project is complete, then we'll go back in and reestablish the lighting. Unfortunately, that does prohibit us from turning the lights on at the softball field for the ice rink we put there. Although there are some hardy souls out there in pitch black playing hockey on there, it looked like. We won't say who that was. But unfortunately, that's the cost of doing that. But there is, however, lighting at the pond, and the pond is still, I believe, enough ice on there to allow skating. So if you want to do it after dark, it'll be there. And hey, you know, spring's just around the corner, so the light's starting to get lighter later in the day, so you never know.
It is.
But hopefully it won't stay cold that long in the spring. A couple other items just real quick. There was an inquiry about a few items at the Enfield Street School. Just wanted to give an update on that. DPW is working on the entry lighting for the drive into that. I'll find out where we stand with that. The heating and the blinds are a little bit longer term issues, and you'll see as part of the capital improvement plan, as part of the budget, that there is an item in there because the blinds are an issue across the district, and it's not just Enfield School. And we're looking at somewhere around, I think the last time I looked at it was somewhere around $220,000-ish to do the replacements that are necessary. So I believe DPW's make a recommendation on where to start with those. But again, unfortunately, it's not something we can just turn around and do, which we would love to do, but we have a greater need across all the buildings for that. And the last item I had is the letter going out to multifamilies regarding the registration. That should be going out very shortly. We had to go through a couple different reiterations of the letter. It's in the hands of the police department and should be going out, like I said, very shortly. And then once that letter's out there,
I think it started today.
is it okay? I know that they had it. I just wasn't sure and I hadn't got any feedback when it went out, but I know that they were working on that. So hopefully, you know, we'll give it a couple weeks to sink in, and then we'll do a little bit of reinforcement with it.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone have any questions, comments for Matt? Not for you, Matt, but should have done this under Councilman Communications, but all council members have in front of them, I think this is a 4x6, 5x7, provided by Rich Tangway. It's the official photo of the 2013-2015 council. It's blurry, but Rich, thank you very much. Well done job. Came out really great. Thank you. And I didn't thank you, but Matt, to staff for getting the ice rink built on Higgins, where originally a rink wasn't going to be built because in last year's experience at Powder Hollow, people didn't use it and then damage was done. Said, don't give up on it, but let's put it in a more public place, more visible place. And was not thinking about Higgins coming down and affecting the power. And we said, Higgins, that would be a great place to have it. Could have night skating. But but Buildings and Grounds built it fast, and it took a couple days for the ice to get thick enough. But good job there, and nice job on the pond as well. And this weekend, a lot of folks were out skating. So it was. We actually have a winter that allows ponds to freeze, which is. Yeah, that's right.
Pipes, too.
Go ahead, Tom.
One thing on the skating, maybe for the leisure committee in the future, and because of our winters are so mild, and it's hard to get skating, that to look into. They have the iceless skating rinks that are available now, or even the refrigerated ones like they do in Hartford. To look in some kind of practical means for that could be set up year on end at the town hall here, which I think is a great kind of a winter carnival atmosphere. You bring people to the new green, which we'll have open and expanded. And I think it would be nice to take a look at the cost of those. I know there's the iceless ones are kind of neat. I haven't heard anything about them, but they're non-ice. They're actually slippery surfaces just skate on, and very economical.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Next, Town Attorney's Report and Communication. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to give one update. As you know, Tuesday, February 25th, we're going to do the FOI training for all the various boards and commissions. We've got a couple requests of adding a couple different ideas. I think the one we're going to go with is at least an overview on the ethics requirements that we have under our ethics code. And I'm going to be meeting with Derek, I think, on Thursday of this week to try to coordinate both what we do for our staff folks and what we do for the boards and commission members, and at least work that into a reasonable time frame so we're not keeping people there all night, but at least hit that as that opportunity on that. So that's the next upcoming item that we'll have for the general boards and commissions.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin? Short and sweet. Thank you very much. Reports of special committees of the council. Enfield High School Renovation Building Committee. Donna, Gina, any updates? Gina?
Last two Saturdays, this past Saturday and the Saturday before that, which was the last Saturday in January, most of the members of the high school building committee and a lot of the liaisons underwent OSHA training. Very fun and informative. Actually, one of the members who teaches the OSHA certification class was nice enough to donate his time, so that was really awesome. So we're all OSHA certified, and I think a lot of actually the members got some nice little pink hard hats, so we're ready to go.
Pink.
Yeah, rock and roll. But other than that, they're just plugging away, working their tails off, and hopefully get some site work and groundbreaking in May.
Great. Thanks. Donna?
Yes, the last meeting, they had gone to the PCT, and they came back, and they had only 21 comments, which is not an extreme amount, and they'll be taking care of those. And I believe it is going to go to town review because it's 90 days. Matt, you might know a little bit more about that. But what was really impressive was their reimbursement rate. 99.6 of all reimbursables they're almost 100% on. Some parts are not reimbursable because they're not used by the students solely, but any place where there is state reimbursement, they're at 99.6%, which to me was great. And they're getting ready now for the threshold peer review, special inspector. These are town, and we're all on board on getting all that. And Jim's still working on the workforce development. He's been going to Southington, and we haven't heard anything about the ACE program, but we are already involved in ACE. So any students who are interested in that can either call me or Gina, and we'll try to get them, into that program in Hartford. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Any other reports of special committees? Cindy?
Thank you. The social services, we had a subcommittee meeting for the human services. They came forward, a certain number of individual groups came. Food Shelf came. There were a few others that did come to present their needs, budgetary needs. And what's going to happen now is the Human Services Subcommittee will look at the actual budgetary needs of the group, and those needs will be presented through Pam Brown, through Social Services, to our town manager for the budgetary process. So at that time, at least we'll have some background information on what the groups are looking to fund. Also, KERMA, we had our annual meeting, election of Board of Directors, the President's report. I have been reassigned or reappointed to the Board of Directors. And again, this year, we will be receiving the percent of refund, because it is a owned company insurance dividend. It'll be a dividend, but because they're owner operated, they're able to do this. We're not sure the amount, though. Per town, it's pro rata. So at some point, that figure will come out. Matt, I believe it comes directly to you, and the disbursement will be made in March or April, and.
No, usually it's not until after the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
We'll know what the number is, but we usually won't get that check until after July 1st.
Okay. But you'll be notified of the amount. And then also, as our state legislators were mentioning earlier, I did attend the Moore Municipal Tax Authority Subcommittee meeting. We had the privilege of listening to a speaker, Fred Karstensen, the director of UConn Center of Economic Analysis. Very, very knowledgeable man, did discuss some of the best states for taxation. Unfortunately, Connecticut's not in there. Wisconsin, Virginia, Minnesota, all of these states have developed ways to better support their tax structure without, bearing the property tax on the residents. They're creative ways, and we're, looking at different structures that maybe Connecticut can use as a model. Part of our problem, according to Fred, here in Connecticut, is that we need to start paying attention to getting people the biggest bang for their buck. Why, in Connecticut, we're not interested in collecting data. Data seems to be the key. Once we have the data, maybe we can start doing a better analysis. And then we need to understand the spending cap. Rightfully, we shouldn't be giving money back to the federal government, as we traditionally do. And my question is, why do we continue doing something that we don't have to? So these are all questions and possible solutions to the problem that we're faced with. And it's a work in progress. It's not going to happen overnight, but this committee is working very diligently, and hopefully we'll have something to bring to the legislature this time that they can sink their teeth into and just not brush it under the carpet. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Councilman Stokes?
Just briefly, we, myself and Councilman Suzak and Arnone have been in communications trying to coordinate our schedules for a meeting to deal with the policy and procedures of the town council. We will get this done, and once we do have something that we think are some drafts or some changes and stuff, we'll get with Matt to schedule it to be presented to the council. So just I'll let you know that we have communicated, though. I think our schedules are all just kind of out there, so we'll get it done, though. So,
Thanks, Greg. Councilman Hall?
This week, we held a general government subcommittee meeting, and Gina and I were there along with the town staff. We covered a bunch of various subjects, one of them being probably the biggest item to come out of it was something that Joey had asked about prior to the meeting, which was personal property collections. And basically what came out of the subcommittee was that staff was going to look at going out for a collection company. And we discussed it, and it seemed like it was really the only option to really, we have more options with real estate property to lien and do things that way. Personal property is a little harder to collect. So they're going to work on a plan. They're going to bring back the bids to the entire council, and then the entire council can discuss it in great detail and get the numbers. But the personal property delinquency number is high. I don't have my note, but I thought it was like 1.6 million, or maybe Matt recalls it. It's in that general number anyway, so it's a significant amount of money. So what we're looking to do is, give people fair warning, not, send them to collections right away, but at least send out a letter to the biggest stakeholders here and ask for them to come to the town and pay these personal property taxes, or set up at least a payment plan. If they're not willing to do that, then maybe move forward to the collection process. And part of that process is going to be, a nab on their credit report, which nobody wants. So, but it costs all of us when those don't get collected. It goes on to all, we're all paying for the delinquent taxpayers. So, so that was the biggest item, really. We talked about insurances. Matt will give us an update during budget on that, and the IT restructuring also was given to us at the subcommittee level, which was, it looks like a great plan. It's a 2-year plan, and we can talk more about the dollars that it's going to save us, and we're going to realize out of it during budget. But it was a good meeting.
Thank you, Carol. Any other reports, special committees of the council?
I do a quick one.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
Just real quick, we did meet as the Development Services Subcommittee last week. It was myself and Councilman Hall and Councilman Edgar. Notable in the agenda or the discussion was revisiting the zoning enforcement ordinance. There was a lively chat at the Mayor's Council of Chairs meeting last month. They thought they were waiting for us, and we said that we were actually waiting for them. And after a good round of banter, it's landed back in the committee's lap. So right now we are awaiting a staff review of kind of where this was left off last year. It had to do with the policy and procedures manual of the zoning office. We'll let the legal team take another look at it and hope to have something for council to re-examine this quarter. So it's still out there and making its way through the sausage factory. We'll get back to you on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Old business, appointments, town council appointed items 1 through 3 on the first page, item 5 on the second page. Is there a motion to remove item 5 from the table?
Second.
By Councilman Edgar, seconded by Councilman Mangini. All those in favor, by a show of hands. Those opposed. Item's been removed from the table. Is there a nomination, please?
I'd like to nominate Howard Flexion.
Motion by Councilman Edgar for Howard Florian, seconded by Councilman Arnone. Is there a motion to close nominations by Councilman Hall, seconded by Councilman Mangini? All those in favor of closing nominations? Those opposed? Nominations are closed. Any discussion? Any discussion on Howard Florian? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala?
Howard Florian.
Councilman Denny?
4.
Councilman Edgar?
4.
Councilman Hall?
Howard Florian.
Mayor Copen?
Howard Florian.
Deputy Mayor Lee?
Howard Florian.
Councilman Mangini?
Howard Florian.
Councilman Stokes?
Howard Florian.
Councilman Suzak?
4.
Councilman Arnone?
Howard Florian.
Councilman Bosco?
4.
It's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Proceeding down to item 11 that we added, is there a motion to remove item 11 from the table?
So moved.
By Councilman Edgar, seconded by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor by a show of hands. Those opposed. Item's been removed from the table. Is there a nomination?
Yes, Jennifer Castellano.
Jennifer Castellone, nomination by Councilman Edgar, seconded by Councilman Stokes. Is there a motion to close nominations by Councilman Mangini, seconded by Councilman Denny? All those in favor of closing nominations? Those opposed? Nominations are closed. Any discussion on Jennifer Castellone? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala?
Jennifer Castellone.
Councilman Denny?
4.
Councilman Edgar?
4.
Councilman Hall?
Jennifer Castellone.
Mayor Copen?
Jennifer Castellone.
Deputy Mayor Lee?
Jennifer Castellone.
Councilman Mancini.
Jennifer Castellone.
Councilman Stokes.
Jennifer Castellone.
Councilman Suzak.
4.
Councilman Arnone.
Jennifer Castellone.
Councilman Bosco. 4. 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
That completes town council appointments under old business. Appointments, town manager appointed, council approved. None this evening. Discussion, item C remains on the table and item D remains on the table. Okay. We move to new business. There is no consent agenda. There are no appointments, council or manager. Item D, discussion resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into an agreement with utility service partners. I believe we're not moving on that this evening, but do you have an update?
Just real quick, Derek and I met with Connecticut Water on their linebacker plan, and we're waiting for them to supply us some more information on that. And so until we have that, which hopefully we'll have before the next meeting, we're asking that no action be taken.
Anyone, Councilman Arnone?
Yeah, I was curious on the repair part as to a blockage, which is, I think, important.
Yep, so I followed up on your request, and the NLC program confirmed with me that they do cover blockages, and the linebacker program, they have 3 levels of service. The second and third tier, not the bottom tier, covers blockages. So both would cover.
Okay, the only two for our reference for next time when we do deal with this, the only difference between the two programs, and I think one that is in the town's best interest, is the NLC one that covers right to the main line to the street. So and we take a bit of responsibility there too, but it would relieve any problem of any gray area for the town of Enfield because it'll be covered. So it's kind of in our better favor. It's a better plan.
Yep, so for the next meeting, I'm going to make sure I have a broken down list of the qualities of both programs so that council can make an informed decision on which program, if a program is best.
Right, and the people still have the choice to choose whichever they want, whichever one would be less expensive, or and you can get, I guess, water line coverage separate from main sewer line.
Yes.
So you could pick either or.
Yeah, I'll have all this for you for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bosco.
Yeah, and also if you could check at the same time on the NLC one, who they use for contractors, and if they're going to be actual local or are they going to come from 20 miles away, because I'd hate to give someone from out of town an advantage over the top of our own taxpayers here that are already doing the work.
Councilman Suzak.
Just want to know if there's a deductible and a cap on those. I read through and I didn't quite see it, but you probably are more familiar with it.
Anyone else on this item? Then it will move to the next agenda. That completes new business. Under items for discussion, we've moved the appointments that are asterisk and items D, E, and F. So item G, discussion of Public Works yard waste collection, would be next. Jonathan, coming up.
In your packet is the discussion memo on this, and a little bringing everybody up to date. The last time council discussed this item, they requested that it go to the DPW subcommittee. DPW subcommittee met, and encapsulated in the memo from Jonathan are the recommendations that came out of that subcommittee meeting. So I guess tonight we'd like to get this locked down so we can start the education piece of this, because we are quickly coming upon spring. So the first yard waste pickup. So I don't know, Jonathan, if you have any comments on that?
No, I thought we had a pretty healthy discussion at the DPW subcommittee. It was almost a month ago, and So it was subsequent to that meeting that I put the memo together with the recommendations. You acted last meeting on a transfer, so we were in position to buy the additional brown barrels. But again, this is a significant change to what has been done here, and I've outlined a number of different things for you to consider if you want to allow use of gray barrels on yard waste Fridays. The subcommittee had a number of recommendations that, again, are in the memo. We can go through them. But there are some things we need to get acting on if you want to go this way.
Okay, so you want to get consensus from council to move forward or not, so shaking heads, anyone want to give comments? Anyone, Councilman Sakala?
How do the workers feel about this? Have you talked to them?
Oh, yes.
Do they think it's going to be possible? And
A lot of the recommendations that I sent out, my initial memo to you was on December 26, which you probably don't remember, but there was, quite an extensive set of discussions I had with our people on the street that are actually doing the work, who had, a lot of concerns. We tried to incorporate those concerns into the recommendations. Some of the recommendations here are made specifically to address the concerns that we have. And again, some of the concerns have to do with enforcement of the whole program.
Correct.
There's concern that this would encourage additional violations. We don't want that. So again, we have this tag system we recommended that we would ask people, we'd number them, and we'd ask residents to pay for them at cost, about $5. This is just an example. People would have to put those on the gray barrel, and it would, on one side it would say the gray barrel is clean, it only has yard waste, and the other side it would list some of the fines and penalties, so they're sort of acknowledging that. The subcommittee recommended that a gray barrel only be used if and only if the resident already had a brown barrel. In other words, that's only for an overflow situation. So that was a twist that the subcommittee felt strongly about. So we also, in our recommendation, wanted the council to clearly state that this, if you move forward, this is the only barrel switching program you're considering, because there is a big public education component here, and we don't want to start having blue barrels on trash days and brown barrels on recycling day. I mean, this is we want this to be limited if we're going to go this way, so that's in the recommendations. And also that to give the option that at a later date, if we can document problems, additional costs, and so on, that we go back to the way we're doing business now. But we assume we'll be successful, but we want you to leave that door open, because this is not something that's common or typical.
I would hope that we're going to be successful. That being said, being a realist, it may not be successful. And I would hope that if there is a time where we're getting a lot of garbage in the leaf pickup, that we can get notified before. I know Tom has mentioned several times that it's very difficult to find places who are going to take all this waste, or if we're going to get fined as a town for having garbage in the leaves. So, I mean, if that's going to happen a lot, I would really like to know sooner than later so we can sort of nix it.
And one of the public education issues that we're concerned about the most is the fact that there's still confusion that this is a change for the Fridays, but does not include the leaf season. In other words, the intent here is in the leaf season, we will still pick up bags of leaves. And that we have to make that clear too. This is for the rest of the year, if you will. This change would be, and then come that 4 or 5 weeks, leaf bags would be picked up. just as they have been.
I'm sorry, one last question. Do you anticipate this resulting in any additional overtime?
That hasn't factored into it right now. There may be some things we don't anticipate, but that wasn't a big issue, the overtime. The concern is that if we're not successful in education and enforcement, that we do, as you said, end up with more contaminated loads than we want, and then the facility we're going to in Massachusetts, the Massachusetts law is different than the Connecticut law in terms of what can go, how much yard waste can be mixed before they reject the load. You know, the concern would that be we'd end up driving material to Massachusetts and having to pick it up and drive it someplace else. And, you know, we're not anticipating a lot of that. We're trying to control it with these tags and additional enforcement and good public education. So that's a concern, but again, if that becomes a bigger issue, we're going to come back and ask you to, please reconsider.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Arnone.
Yeah, everybody knows how I feel about this, but I have to speak again. And, I didn't even consider the issue with the yard waste getting mixed in with going to Springfield, like you just said also, because we've got two haulers. We have the hauler that recycles and our rubbish incinerator to deal with. Not, again, too many variables, too many ifs, too many things for people to have to remember. I think it's the wrong direction. It's not good business. And, we had some issues about, Fridays, we don't pick up rubbish on Fridays, but those barrels will be out during leaf season that could be all week long. And they're going to be out on the curb all week long when we are picking up rubbish. So I still think there's going to be some confusion in this for a long time. In a program, I think we already have a little confusion going on. If there's any worse time to launch this, it's when you're trying to get people to not put bags out during regular summer hours and only during the fall. And now you're going to launch more regulation on them at the same time, or a different set of rules at the same time when we're trying to get one thing straightened out. So I really think it's not only the bad timing, but it's going to just put more stress on a recycling system that we don't need. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Councilman Bosco.
Where does our yard waste go?
The yard waste had been going to Harvest, a company called Harvest.
Correct, which is in Ellington, not in Massachusetts.
Correct.
So one of the things you misspoke, because you said the way you said it was, at least the way I understood it was that our yard waste being mixed with rubbish.
Right. What he's saying though is if it is contaminated, they won't accept it there, and then we'll be left to take it to a trash facility, not because we wouldn't be able to use it going to the recycling facility.
Well, that's one thing I didn't understand it at, but the next thing is, the only other way it's going to get contaminated is if people put yard waste in their garbage bale now heading to Massachusetts, which if they're going to hide their yard waste in the trash, they're going to hide it anyway because it's in a barrel that's going for trash. The big thing is everyone is going to know when they look at that sticker or that tag that you have that this is it and this is what's going to happen. And it'd be pretty hard pressed that someone would physically put that on and not look at an empty trash barrel. We got to give our residents some credit here that, they're going to follow some rules, because other than that, there's nothing stopping me from putting yard waste in my trash barrel today or putting trash into my recyclables. We got to give our residents some credit that they're going to do what's right. And again, by having this in there that if it doesn't work out, then we'll relook at it and possibly get rid of it. I think that's like a little safe thing in there. It's just, we have to give our residents some credit. This is only for overflow, because other than that, you have to have the other barrel. So the educational, Well, I mean, it's pretty hard pressed to read that big fluorescent thing that says, make sure your trash can is clean, and then put trash in it, because that same person would put the trash in their brown tipper barrel, they'd put the waste in their gray tipper barrel. So if someone blatantly wants to do something that's not right, we're not going to catch them anyway, or they're going to contaminate a load, like it or not. And for Tom's point about the guy on Thursday or Friday missing the guy's Thursday's trash can, I'm guilty of it too. I don't pick my trash barrel up all the time, but it's not going to have a big yellow or a big orange or pink tag on it. So he's going to see the pink tag. If he doesn't see the pink tag, he's not going to pick it up. So if I left my trash barrel out all week, he's not going to pick it up because it's not going to have an orange tag on it. And I would hope that we would give our employees enough, praise that they could see a big sticker on it, they're going to pick it up. If there's no sticker on it, they're not going to take it.
Thanks, Joey. Councilman Denny.
The gray barrels are going to be picked up only in the spring and during leaf season, or all year round now with the overflow?
If you adopt this program, if the gray barrels, if someone puts the tag on it, then it would be picked up all year round.
Okay, that was my question. All year round. Well, not all year round, because we don't do
all year when we're doing yard waste or leaf collection. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Councilman Stokes.
All right, I'm having a hard time with this, and I have from the beginning. So to me, and then I know I talked to Matt, I kind of said that we had a plan, a system, which is, gray, brown, blue, and I'm not insulting the citizens. I'm just thinking that was a system, and I have a concern that we're going to have contamination, and then we're going to have some shipping from different places. We're going to find the cost begins to cost us and everything. Forgive me if, as our leader in this area, you don't sound tremendously enthusiastic about our plan of doing this, which kind of makes me concerned. I guess my question to you is simply this. Is this something that if we never thought of this, would you have brought this to us as a wonderful idea to do? Yes or no? Just be truthful with us.
I don't think so. It came from the council.
I know.
And we're trying to be responsive to.
And I appreciate that. I didn't mean to put you on that spot. The key thing for me is, and obviously I'm not an expert on trash. I know how to generate a lot of it, but I don't know. But I'm really having a hard time with the fact of. I watched the council before I got on here change over from putting those old trash cans out where we had our great employees taking the trash cans, and then, of course, our workman's comp was going up, all kinds of things. And the whole idea was to save money, and the whole idea was to be better efficient with the taxpayers' money. So I remember when we had the rolling out of the tipper program, and everybody got excited. This is new. We got the trucks and this, and then we had the recycling. I remember the big discussions on council, watching on TV, because I had no life. I watched you guys on TV. Is a big thing about single stream, and now we got these big blue barrels, which I love because I have more in that now than I do in my garbage bin. I've actually been very disciplined on this, and my wife is shocked that I do this. And then, of course, we have the yard waste one, and which comes in handy for those areas there. And now that we got all these things that we really promote and stuff, let's compromise the system because we have some issues with it. When to me they're color coded, it's very simple, and I have a little concern that we are going to have contamination. I'm concerned that somebody's going to turn something down, and in the year when we're going to be asking for line item transfers to cover some extra expenses because we had to pay some money to do that. So I just throw it out there. So now you have my 2 cents. I kept quiet to this point, haven't I? I did good. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for the nickel. Councilman Suzak.
Actually, it was brought to the council by citizens in high leaf areas looking to make it a little bit better. But I guess if we're going to go into an education process, I would like people to have indiscriminately used other people's trash to get rid of their trash, that they also follow the rules. That when we put out our cans and our cans are clean and our cans have yard waste, that they shouldn't just decide that they should use any trash receptacle that they want. I'm trying to be very politically correct here, to get rid of whatever they feel they don't want to carry with them on the rest of their journey. Okay?
Throwing your mom under the bus?
I think it's doggies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
Bill, I cleaned it up at the Institute. Thank you.
just so to explain that, the concern is that people walking their dogs will use the gray tipper barrels, not realizing that they're just there for yard waste. And
They don't care.
Right.
They'll use the brown
Right.
as well. They're not
Oh,
they're indiscriminate as to color.
I carry it home. Further discussion. Okay, I need a consensus. So I need like nodding heads if you're in favor of it. If you're not, just stay frozen. So I need some nodding.
I'm frozen.
I'm having a hard time staying still.
I'm frozen. I'm not into this stuff. It's too much.
Well, if you're not overly enthusiastic about it, then I'm going to say that there's not consensus. Unless folks, really want to make this happen, then, I need more than a couple people because that's not consensus.
I feel
So-
bad. They put so much work into it.
Well, this sounds harsh, but that's their job. So, and so if I can persuade anyone, I'm in favor of this.
My thoughts. I want a red
I think
barrel.
the residents did come to us. To me, it's something that should be done in high volume peak times. I know from my own personal experience, and it's the Friday after a holiday. So you get canceled a week because that's, so maybe council wants to spend more money and authorize overtime on Saturday so yard waste can get picked up, or there's an alternative that you've got the ability to use a gray barrel at no extra cost to the town. So I see this as a no-brainer. Roll it out, try it, see if it works. You'll tell us if it doesn't work. The residents are the ones that asked for it. And everyone's situation's different, but we represent them all. And just because you personally don't want to use it doesn't necessarily mean that your neighbor or the guy down the street or the gal down the street can't use it as a benefit. I think they put together a responsible program. Try it. If it doesn't work, pull it away. Say, oh, sorry, residents didn't adhere to it. So unfortunately, we had a contaminated load or 2 or 10, and we can't do it. I think the people are pretty savvy. They'll understand what the program is. So I'm for it. So anyone else have any comments?
Question.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
In your bullets, you talk about the tag and the fee associated with the tag. Is $5 what you'd be proposing, or is that still a fee that would have to be set during budget?
No, we've gotten prices for printing this with numbers, and, we've got prices for the Velcro, and $5 is adequate.
That's just to cover the cost of the tag.
Right.
The cost of the risk should also be assessed, I would imagine, and
Well, that's the difficulty in this. We talked at length trying to gauge what would a contamination level be. And I think we had said, well, if it was 10%, do you remember any of the numbers off that?
Connecticut and Massachusetts are different,
Right.
so it's really up to the plant managers. It's hard to pick a percentage and who's inspecting the load and what they're going to do with it. It was hard to come up with a specific number.
I think my opinion would be that that rate should reflect bearing some of the risk in the program. So $5 seems low to me. Would you envision the tag being placed in the loop on the cover, or does this education process have to include, placement of this barrel so that it can be seen driving up and not on the side? And I mean, there's a few things that kind of speak to the complexity of the program that I don't think are outlined yet, which have to go into the education process. I mean, a driver, if you got two barrels right next to each other, you're not going to see that tag driving up on it. So either we've got to educate where the barrel is being placed by the resident, or where that tag is being placed. How stringent are we going to be? Do you envision that tag being an annual tag where we expect an annual sticker, like a boat registration? You'd have a year tag on it.
No, it's like instead of buying barrel.
But I wouldn't go through with this unless it was an annual fee. I mean, at some point, you've got to bear the cost of the risk. And I don't know that we're prepared to do that in the way it's being proposed currently.
Well, and I think the issue is to try to assess what that risk really is. And again, I think there really is no experience to go back on and say this is what that contamination risk could be. And so it would be an artificial, it would be a guess. I mean, it would be an educated guess, but it'd be a guess. And I think when this was put together, all these different things, we assume that the vast majority of our residents that are going to be utilizing this are going to do the right thing. And the contamination risk is a very low risk. But that's why we want a strong enforcement. And the concern that we had, and it seems that council is stepping up on this, is that the first time that we come down on somebody, that we continue to have that ability to come down on people that violate it. And I think as long as we have that, I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue going forward. But some of the things you speak to, obviously, when the resident comes in to purchase that tag, we will have a very clear set of guidelines on the placement of it, all those things that you had talked about, so they understand what happens. And if there is a deviation, if there's a gray tipper next to a brown tipper and there's no tag, we're not going to pick up that gray tipper. And so again, we'll make it very clear that these are the instructions. These are the instructions that our drivers are going to be following as they do it. Failure to do that means that we will not pick it up. So if there's no brown next to that gray, even though it has a tag, we will not be picking up that gray.
Is a tagged barrel out on Tuesday going to be picked up for solid waste, or will it be passed?
If that tag's on it, then we're making the assumption that there is yard waste in there. So we would not pick that up. Again, the resident is going to have to assume responsibility in this program. That's what will make it successful. If they don't assume the responsibility, it will fail.
I think the rate should be higher to cover the additional admin, even the production of these tags or distribution or sale. I'm willing to go along with it, but I think we're setting that too low.
We're open to suggestions. I mean, again, we were looking based upon what our discussions with the DPW subcommittee was, just to be able to recover what we felt the cost of production of those tags would be. If you want it $10, $20, I mean, and just understand that under the ordinance, the Director of Public Works has the ability to lay out all these regulations. So it's ultimately him putting this all together and having the authority to do that. And so we're just seeking consent from council that this is what you want to be done.
Okay, now the second round of debate, I have Councilman Bosco, Sakala, Denny.
Actually, Bill, that was one of the things I said about raising the price. This is mainly just for an outlet. So you have a place to put your tipper barrel, to get rid of your yard waste if your brown barrel's full. It shouldn't be something that people use every week. But just to back up a little bit, the worst case here is everyone's going to get their trash picked up between Monday and Thursday. So, by rights, if my trash barrel is sitting out there, it's already going to be empty because they came and they dumped it between Monday and Thursday. So the only way my trash barrel is going to have trash in it when I go to affix that tag into it is I have to look in it and make sure there's trash, because the trash should already be emptied on it on Thursday. If we did our job, that trash can is already empty Thursday. So if it's sitting by the curb, we already have an ordinance because you can't bring your trash out to the road a week in advance. So there should be no trash barrels sitting on the road that have contamination in them to say we're going to pick up a whole load of garbage and dump it in there, because it should be emptied by then. The next thing is, where are you worried about the contamination? Are you worried about the contamination in the yard waste? Or are you worried about the contamination in the trash stream?
Both.
But
It happens both ways.
I
right now.
understand, but you keep going back to Massachusetts. So it seems like you're putting more emphasis of contamination in the trash stream of yard waste. Well, if that's going to happen, that's already happening. And you use a number of 10%. Well, you got a lot of trash or yard waste to be added to our trash for 10%. And the other way, I would hope that, we're not, out of 100 drops, we're picking up 10 drops of garbage and dumping them in the trash stream, or the waste stream for the down at the Harvest. Yeah, I'm getting all tongue-tied here. So, I mean, I don't agree with what you're talking about in your numbers on the contamination amount, because it is going to be an empty barrel, and I'm sure we're going to have some contamination. We already have contamination because people don't pick the trash out of their leaves when they rake their yards. So I don't see a big problem. That trash barrel better be empty on Thursday when it's sitting at the road.
And again, let me just say that again, there is no experience on this program that tells us what that amount of contamination would be. And so when we say 10%, again, that was a number that Jonathan and I talked about and, kind of bandied about and said, what's the worst it could be? And again, it came up to 10%. That's by no means what we think it's going to be. We just try to come up and say, okay, what could be the worst case scenario? I mean, obviously the worst case scenario could be at 100%. We don't know. But again, as you said earlier, we have to give credit to our residents that they'll do the right thing, that they won't intentionally do something that's going to be negative for themselves as well as the town. And that's why the ability to do the enforcement is the added incentive to make sure that they do the right thing.
And to me, I don't need this. This does not benefit me one bit. I have plenty of room to compost my yard waste, but I think this is just something we're doing for the residents. It's going to help us with unsightly tipper barrels, and that's it. So, I mean, everyone's going to make up their own mind. I'm not going to argue it out no more. I really don't have a stake in the matter. I'm just doing it because people kept complaining to me about the tipper barrel and the excess, and that's it. But I am going to get a drink so you know where I'm standing.
Momentum's building. Councilman Sakala.
Just really quickly, have you thought about what the fines are going to be? Are we fining the first time?
The ordinance says the first time is a warning, then there's a 25, then 50, and then it goes up from there. I wasn't proposing to change the fine schedule as part of this right now, and that's specified in this memo. Yeah, first is a written warning, then 25, then 50, then 100, then 250, then $500.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I guess let's say try it, and I would love somebody to come back and report, probably you, in a year and let us know how it goes so we can say yes or no again.
Thanks, Gina. Councilman Denny.
I just want to say that I think by doing this, it eliminates, especially not so much in the suburbs, but here in Thompsonville, where the lots are smaller and multifamily homes, it eliminates an extra barrel or an extra 2 barrels. And my yard, I'm getting barrel crazy myself, and I have some decent property, but I think that's what it eliminates, and so I think I'm in favor of it. To try it. We can always say, no, it's not working.
Just before you leave it, and I don't want to drag this out, but there is an issue out there, and that is the 300 people that have already paid for barrels while we've been debating this. And now if you decide that they can use a gray barrel and buy a tag for $10, do you offer them the chance to get their $25 back for the barrel? And that's a decision I don't think I can make. I think that is something
Well,
that
it's part of your bullet point, so the understanding is that there would be a refund. So that's part of the bullet points that are there. By my read of the council, there is consensus to move forward. It is a simple majority, but a consensus. So I did some questioning on the side, and I know there's at least 6 that favor it, so you have consensus. Any further questions, or we beat this to Councilman Suzak?
People who just have one more thing, but you know what? I would not be opposed to revoking their tag if they don't behave.
Jonathan, you have consensus.
With a dramatic clipping.
Now get out of here while you can.
Get out of here while you're at.
Just one more thing. Before we recycle our opinion.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to miscellaneous. We have some appointments. Commission on Aging alternate. Is there a nomination?
Mary O'Connell.
Nomination by Councilman Edgar, Mary O'Connell, seconded by Councilman Arnone. Is there a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
By Deputy Mayor Lee, seconded by Councilman Mangini. All those in favor of closing nominations? Those opposed, nominations are closed. Any discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala.
Mary O'Connell.
Councilman Denny.
Mary O'Connell.
Councilman Edgar.
4.
Councilman Hall.
Mary O'Connell.
Mayor Copeland.
Mary O'Connell.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
Mary O'Connell.
Councilman Mangini.
Mary O'Connell.
Councilman Stokes.
Mary O'Connell.
Councilman Suzak.
4.
Councilman Arnone.
Mary O'Connell.
Councilman Bosco.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Next item, Historic District Commission alternate. Is there a nomination?
Colleen Reedy.
Colleen Reedy by Councilman Edgar, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lee. Is there a motion to close nominations by Councilman Sakala, seconded by Councilman Stokes? All those in favor? Those opposed? Nominations are closed. Any discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala.
Colleen Ann Reedy.
Councilman Denny.
Colleen Ann Reedy.
Councilman Edgar.
4.
Councilman Hall.
Colleen Reedy.
Mayor Copeland.
Colleen Reedy.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
Colleen Reedy.
Councilman Mangini.
Colleen Reedy.
Councilman Stokes.
Colleen Reedy.
Councilman Suzak.
4.
Councilman Arnone.
Colleen Reedy.
Councilman Bosco.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Historic District Commission alternate. Is there a nomination?
Make a nomination
Go ahead.
for Linda Stibbins.
Motion by Councilman Denny for Linda Stebbins, seconded by? By Councilman Hall. Is there a motion to close nominations?
moved.
By Deputy Mayor Lee, seconded by? Councilman Hall. All those in favor of closing nominations? Those opposed? Nominations are closed. Discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala.
Linda Stebbins.
Councilman Denny.
Linda Stebbins.
Councilman Edgar.
4.
Councilman Hall.
Linda Stebbins.
Mayor Copeland.
Linda Stebbins.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
Linda Stebbins.
Councilman Mangini.
Linda Stebbins.
Councilman Stokes.
Linda Stebbins.
Councilman Suzak.
4.
Councilman Arnone.
Linda Stebbins.
Councilman Bosco.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Next, Prison Town Liaison Committee. Is there a nomination? Deputy
Mr.
Mayor
Mayor,
Lee.
I'd like to nominate Tim Slade.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Lee, seconded by Councilman Arnone. Is there a motion to close nominations? By Councilman Hall, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lee. All those in favor of closing nominations? Those opposed? Nominations are closed. Discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala.
Timothy Slade?
Councilman Denny.
4.
Councilman Edgar.
4.
Councilman Hall.
Timothy Slade.
Mayor Copeland.
Tim Slade.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
Tim Slade.
Councilman Mangini.
Tim Slade.
Councilman Stokes.
Tim Slade.
Councilman Suzak.
4.
Councilman Arnone.
Tim Slade.
Councilman Bosco. 4. There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Next item, discussion resolution, request for transfer of funds, EMS, $61,000. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfers hereby made to vehicles, $61,000, from other funds, $61,000, certified the funds are available. Lynn Nenny, Director of Finance.
So moved.
By Councilman Hall, seconded by Councilman Edgar. Discussion. Councilman
Just have a
Mangini.
question. Through you, Scott, to our town manager, I understand that they have the funds, that this money is already available. We are entering budget season. Would it be more prudent for us to wait until we hit our budget to reallocate this funding, or do we have to do this now?
Well, this purchase was actually proposed in last year's budget, and because of delays in doing the specifications, they weren't able to get that purchase made. And in this year's budget, it called for actually one rechassing or maybe 2 rechassing the vehicle, and so they're going to forego that to make this purchase. And obviously, if we're falling behind on the replacement schedule that we had laid out if we wait until, because again, if we wait until the budget year, that means we wouldn't be doing it until next July at the earliest.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Edgar.
Yes, am I correct that we're using Macholik Post funds that were given to us for this?
Correct. This would be coming out of the Macholik Post ambulance fund.
Any further discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala.
4.
Councilman Denny.
4.
Councilman Edgar.
4.
Councilman Hall.
4.
Mayor Copeland.
4.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
4.
Councilman Mangini.
4.
Councilman Stokes.
4.
Councilman Suzak.
4.
Councilman Arnone.
4.
Councilman Bosco.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Next item, discussion resolution making recommendations for the Charter Revision Commission to consider and setting time frame for submission of the draft report by the Charter Revision Commission. Whereas the Enfield Town Council initiated a charter revision process at the January 2nd, 2014 meeting. And whereas the Enfield Town Council must set a date for the charter revision to submit its draft report to the Enfield Town Clerk and provide suggestions for the Charter Revision Commission to consider. Now therefore be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council, 1, charges the Charter Revision Commission to review the charter of the Town of Enfield and make any recommendations it deems appropriate. And 2, the town manager is instructed to transmit to the Charter Revision Commission all individual suggestions made by town council members for the commission's review of the charter. And 3, specifies that the Charter Revision Commission submit its draft report to Enfield's town clerk by Friday, May 23rd, 2014.
So moved.
By Councilman Mangini, seconded by Councilman Stokes. Matt.
Included in this, or with this resolution, is a proposed timeline, which I recalibrated based upon looking at the previous charter review commissions. And so, again, it looks, if we're able to meet the schedule, to be able to get it on the November ballot for this year.
Discussion. Councilman Stokes.
On the list of the calendar, are all those days, say for instance, the August 4th date, council, is that confirmed to put in our schedules, or is that what you're looking for?
Well, August, there's some assumptions being made here, and one of the assumptions is that council continues the summer schedule.
Right.
So it'd just be the first meeting of the month at that time. Again, if for some reason you want some extra time, we can have a special meeting. Okay. So there is a little bit of room in that.
Okay. Thank you.
But just let me add that the September 4th, though, is a hard hard date for us.
Further discussion? Okay, sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala?
4.
Councilman Denny?
4.
Councilman Edgar?
4.
Councilman Hall?
4.
Mayor Copeland?
4.
Deputy Mayor Lee?
4.
Councilman Mangini?
4.
Councilman Stokes?
4.
Councilman Suzak?
4.
Councilman Arnone?
4.
Councilman Bosco?
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Next item, discussion resolution appointing members of the Enfield Charter Revision Commission. Whereas the Enfield Town Council initiated the charter revision process at the January 2nd, 2014 meeting. And whereas the Enfield Town Council now must appoint members to serve on the Charter Revision Commission. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town Council of the Town of Enfield does hereby establish a Charter Revision Commission composed of 13 members. And be it further resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby appoint the following individuals to the Charter Revision Commission. Louis Fiore, Democrat. Thomas Froment, Democrat. Jeff Gentis, Democrat. Thomas Joquim, Republican. Judy Kilty, unaffiliated. Debbie Cruzel, Republican. Michael Lally, Republican. Edward McGuire, Republican. Margaret Perry, Republican. Earl Preventure, Democrat. William Shealy, Republican. Jack Sheridan, Enfield Taxpayers Party. Karen Westlisa, Democrat. And be it further resolved that the Enfield Town Council shall designate 2 members of the Town Council to serve as primary non-voting liaisons to the Charter Revision Commission. Moved by
Second.
Deputy Mayor Lee, seconded by Councilman Stokes. Discussion? Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Lee?
Just that wanted to put the thanks on the table now to this group of volunteers who are essentially committing to a pretty rigorous process. This looks like a very respectable group of residents who have a wide variety of experiences in the municipality and a wide variety of opinions on all matters big and small. So I thank them up front and wish them well.
Thanks, Bill. Councilman Edgar?
Yes, I'd just like to make a comment. We have agreed to this, but I got trouble. Sorry, but we thought at the time that your side should be appointing yours, our side should be appointing ours. But we did not want to go into the 13 individual names. But our feelings were that that is the way it should have been done.
Thank you, Red. Councilman Stokes?
I want to go along with what Deputy Mayor Lee said, but I want to extend it to all those who did fill out the applications. And there was some tremendous talent and dedicated citizens, and that submitted applications. We appreciate them all. I think and I hope they get involved in other places too. You know, in fact, there's a lot of places to serve. I think the names that we have come to consensus on here are such a balanced group of people that have a lot of great talent experiences on all sides of the aisle and everything. And I also just want to say, for one of the members, Jack Sheridan, we have our condolences for the loss of his wife in the past week and a half or so. So obviously, need to say that to him too. So that's all.
Thanks, Greg.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Any further comments? I just want to thank, I believe we received 41, it was either 41 or 43 applicants, so thank the residents for submitting in their applications. It's never a tough decision when you have to pick and choose, but I think we put together a great group of people that I have a lot of respect for. And some of these folks I know very well. Some of these folks I've served with in other capacities. We have a former council member here. We have people that really represent the community, a pretty broad spectrum. It is 6 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 2 unaffiliated or other. I did communicate with all of them on Friday, and did have some conversations with a number of them over the weekend. And at least the ones that I spoke to are anxious to get working. And I just forewarned them that they had a pretty aggressive schedule to meet because I think we all feel it's important that a decision by the voters on the charter should be held at a normal scheduled election. And this coming November, it's the statewide election, governor, House of Representatives, state senate, Congress as well, and you're going to get a higher turnout than a municipal election. And sometimes when we call special elections off of the normal schedule, we also have in the charter a requirement that at least 20% of the electorate actually get out and vote. And sometimes when you run special elections, the turnout is very low. So I thank everyone for applying, and I thank those folks for the work that they're about to undertake. It's really important for our community to look at the charter every now and then. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. I also want to just mention that there were a good number of people that did apply, which was phenomenal, and to say thank you to everyone who did apply. Obviously, not everyone can serve on this particular commission, but there are other committees, like Greg pointed out, that maybe these people, would like to come forward and serve in other capacities. But again, I think a great big thank you to all the people that did apply, and God bless you going forward, those of you that are on, because that is going to be a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Anyone else? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Sakala.
4.
Councilman Denny.
4.
Councilman Edgar.
4.
Councilman Hall.
4.
Mayor Copen.
4.
Deputy Mayor Lee.
4.
Councilman Mangini.
4.
Councilman Stokes.
4.
Councilman Suzak.
4.
Councilman Arnone.
4.
Councilman Bosco.
4.
It's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
That completes miscellaneous. Next item on the agenda is public communications. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council? We have 2 members of our newly formed Charter Revision Commission in the audience.
They're here for their, get a good seat.
Just making sure. We have
Bill Shealy.
William Shealy and Tom Froman. So, thank you, gentlemen. But they're going to stay quiet. So is there any councilman communications? Gina?
For Saturday, where are we meeting, and do I need to dress to be outside?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, to all of you.
Here, and we'll send an email out
Okay.
tomorrow to reconfirm that, and then probably in a couple days you'll get the itinerary as well. But yes, I would say be prepared, because you will be walking from a bus at least to the door as well. But there probably will be some outdoor activities.
thanks.
Any further councilman communications? Sensing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
By Councilman Stokes, seconded by Councilman Mangini. All those in favor? By show of hands, all opposed? We are adjourned. Have a good night.
Thank you.